No. This is a good thing. Now there are no more secrets between us.
Is that
my true self?
Bastion, please?
Ryan, I know what you're thinking, Dr. Glenn. There's only one question on your mind right now. Can I make it to the door in time?
We interrupt this program to bring you...
All right, everybody, my name is Kevin.
And I'm John.
And we are The Real Movie Guys, and welcome back to another episode of The Real Review, the series where we review and discuss all your favorite movies and TV shows. On today's episode, we're taking a look at Daredevil, Born Again, Episode 7, Art for Art's Sake. Daredevil is back and races Fisk to stop Muse from killing again. Okay, John, I feel like I keep saying this like every week as we've been talking about this show, but I think this episode kind of saw some of my predictions I think I had in the last episode, where I said, I really wish we got a lot more of Muse in the prior episodes to the show. I mean, we're already at episode 7 and we barely had any time with the guy. I felt like last episode was an awesome encounter, and I think I said in the last video, I'm like, how much you want to bet like the next episode they're going to do like an exposition dump of his whole backstory, and that's probably all we're going to see of him. And sure enough, that's kind of what happened here. But besides that being something I have a huge issue with, which I guess we'll go into a little bit deeper, overall, I think I had a really good time with this show. It brought up a lot of good conflicts, a lot of good storytelling as far as Daredevil. The Fisk storyline moved along to a very interesting angle. I can't wait to see how that plays out. But overall, I think Daredevil had a solid week. What did you think of this episode?
No, yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like we called it when we said, like, this is what they're going to do, and then it's all going to be in one episode, and then it's going to be like gone. Kind of like you drew it out for 7 episodes of this guy who we barely knew, to then get to know him, to then kill him off, and like instantly, like.
Yeah, and I mean, spoiler alert, this is Muse's last episode. He gets killed in this episode. But again, he's such a cool character. I said this again from the beginning, that I thought he was so interesting. His design is absolutely amazing. They did a really good job thematically with the character. It's just, John, what did you think? There just wasn't enough time, really, with the character. And I feel like this episode just really displayed that and put that on show for everyone.
Yeah, I feel like they could have easily built him up a hell lot more than what they did. They could have gave him a whole better backstory. I feel like it seemed like they did a lot of research on the character, throwing it all into this episode, but there just wasn't enough. They just couldn't do enough in one episode to carry home the point, I feel like.
You know what it is? It's one of those things, like, if they spread this out across multiple episodes, this would have been fantastic. I think if they really just built up this character up until that point, because ultimately it ends up Muse has a confrontation with Heather Glenn, who is Matt Murdock's girlfriend / she's a psychiatrist. And one of the earlier episodes, I think I said that too. I think that she's meeting this guy. That guy's going to be Muse, and they had a quick meeting, and she gave him her email, and we kind of didn't know what was like. That was like their only encounter up until this episode. So either they had therapy sessions before that or they didn't. I don't quite understand, but whatever they did and didn't do, what they didn't do, obviously, was focus on the character through these couple episodes, building him up. I was really upset. I think they felt like they needed to give us this whole backstory of this character and build all this tension. But if you built a relationship between Heather and Muse leading up to this encounter, almost like, she was, just kind of going over his backstory slowly throughout these past few episodes, I think this impact would have been more significant. What do you think? I think there definitely would have been more tension in the scene for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I also didn't I didn't understand whether they met more times, but I kind of figured that they have.
Right, it's not clear, right? I didn't think they really kind of could go either way, I felt like.
Yeah, but I felt like it seemed like she was asking so many questions that she kind of already knew these answers to. Like,
right.
How much does she, like, how does she know more about this said character than like the police per se do,
It's weird because it felt like, I know he read her book and that's like her whole thing. She wrote this big book, and I guess he was so like enamored by this piece of literature that she wrote that he feels like she understands him and knows him. But the problem is, I don't feel that, and as the viewer, I'm the one who's supposed to understand that. I know you can't put a label on crazy sometimes when people are just like batshit crazy. It is what it is. Look at the guy who like killed John Lennon. You know what I mean? He read a book and he went to go shoot John Lennon. I mean, you could compare that situation here almost to some extent. But I really think we needed some more, especially to build up that tension. Because if we had this tension throughout the whole season, like, okay, there's something weird about this guy. We don't know who he is. I mean, most viewers probably would have been able to tell who he was by the time we got to this point. But you still would be like, when's he going to flip the trigger? When's something going to happen? We didn't get that. We literally got their brief encounter, his whole backstory, and then suddenly he's like, oh, I love you, and I'm crazy, and you're the only one that understands me. You're my perfect artwork, blah, 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 blah. And then we get a big fight with Daredevil. Everything happens. All the action jumps in the scene, and then the cops come in, they shoot him, and it's over. And don't get me wrong, it was beautiful. The way he died, I think, is absolutely fantastic. Muse dies on a big tarp of the canvas. He falls on the canvas, and it's this big blood splurt of blood flowing from him, and he ended up dying as a piece of his artwork. Very cool, very interesting. Happened within the span of like 20 minutes, and I'm just like, okay, kind of wanted more. Would have been nice.
Yeah. Well, even like with the ending of like the cops kind of trying to take all full credit for it, it's like a whole like, you almost think like they have like maybe 2 episodes left.
Right.
Where are they going to leave us hanging with this?
Right.
And that's the one problem with like a lot of shows. Like these shows leave you hanging, and a lot of the times you're like, are we even going to get a season 2?
Yeah.
There's never a guarantee.
And the problem is, even though I think it's incredibly sloppy and it's just incredibly messy overall, I still think it's well executed overall. It was still enjoyable. I was still happy to get to see Muse. It's just, it leaves you a little disappointed, that we didn't get to spend more time with this character. Again, maybe he isn't the big bad that the series was building up. I think that really just is the conflict between Kingpin and Daredevil. That's the central goal, of them coming to blows or coming to some kind of like explosive point in the future. But right now, it just feels like, we could have done more with Muse, and it was a little disappointing, even though very cool character. I love also how they kind of just throw off this like offhand comment, like, oh yeah, he used to be a jiu-jitsu taekwondo master or something, or he was trained really well in that. So, he can obviously fight Daredevil extremely well. And that brings me to something else to talk about before we jump into the rest of the other episodes. So I saw some comments online, and I kind of wanted to address it here. People were upset with the use of CGI on Daredevil through some of the choreography that's been in the past couple episodes. The creator came out and said, if I could have done this on the Netflix show, I would have done it. Daredevil's supposed to be more of an acrobatic fighter, doing flips, doing jumps, doing crazy moves and stuff that sometimes just aren't humanly possible. What do you think, John? Do you think it's a detriment to use this kind of CGI in the show, or did it bother you at all? Personally, for me, I thought it was kind of cool and just added like an extra layer. I didn't think it looked terrible. I mean, obviously I knew it was CGI, but again, it didn't really bother me. And I know some people are super off-put by that.
Yeah, no, it didn't bother me at all. It's like one of those things that like, there's a reason why CGI is in movies, and there's things that we can't do that CGI can do. And I feel like if CGI can make things better, that's all for it.
Right, and you're using it the correct way. I think primarily the choreography is done with the actors and the stunt actors and whatnot, but you're enhancing some of the scenes, making like Daredevil a little more superhuman, right, if you would, because that is kind of the concept of the character. He's supposed to be better than normal. His sentences are heightened because he lost his sight. So him doing these like big flips and jumping off of buildings and doing stuff like that, I'm okay with that. I think it's cool. I think it heightens it. That's where I stand on it. So in case people are actually curious about that, I thought I'd throw that in. Rest of the episode, pretty cool too. You also had Matt Murdock dealing with the fallout of becoming Daredevil again. I do like this turn for the character where we see him being a little more confident, a little more like, yeah, Daredevil's back. I have to take care of this now. It's my mess. I'm going to clean it up. I appreciate some of the conflict that he had, especially with Cherry, who knows he's Daredevil and knows he's obviously back as Daredevil. And Cherry doesn't want to help him find any more information on anybody. He's like, I'm done. I don't want to help you anymore. Go back to living your nice lifestyle. I don't know. I like that. I also like Matt Murdock's conversation with Heather, where he kind of talks about where he feels like there's another personality almost, right? Like there was something missing, and this is kind of like him coming to light at this point. And I enjoy that, and we're getting that with Fisk too. Fisk was a little bit quieter for him this episode, but till the end, right? The end, we actually got to see the potential assassination of Fisk by his wife, which I think this scene was done brilliantly. Vincent D'Onofrio pulls it off. He's sitting in a restaurant. He's eating dinner as Kingpin. One of the thugs comes in that's been meeting with the Kingpin and his wife and stuff like that. They've been extorting throughout the past couple episodes. He comes in with a gun, like Soprano style, is about to like cap him off, and then you see his assistant Buck comes out of the shadows and just pops the guy right in the head, and he falls over and dies. And he tells Buck to make sure you ask my wife what she wants me to bring her home for dinner. And he picks up the guy's phone, and I'm like, oh shit, he knows it's Vanessa, and you see Vanessa's on the other end was the one sending him to kill him. So, John, what do you think? Was that? I thought that was pretty cool. It was such an awesome scene, and the fact that Kingpin knows, I cannot wait to see where this goes with that character.
Well, that was the other thing that made me think that's why they killed off Muse so quickly, was because the bigger they can only have so many like per se like stories going on. Like you have the Daredevil versus the Kingpin, and now you got Kingpin versus his wife.
Yeah.
There's only so much you could do. So I thought I thought that ending part was excellent. I thought that was like a great ending to like this, like to the whole episode.
Yeah, it was just this big exclamation point on everything, where we get to see like the sassy Kingpin. He knew everything was gonna come down. He knows his wife wants to kill him and take over the Empire or whatever she wants to do at this point, and it's really cool. I really dig where they're going with that storyline, especially in relation to Matt Murdock's Daredevil. The police storyline was also in this too, which I think is important. I'm assuming we're going to get to some kind of confrontation with the Punisher based on just images that have leaked and stuff like that. We know the Punisher's coming back, and I'm sure Frank Castle isn't too happy about the police officers using his name to kill. So I kind of can't wait to see where that goes. I think there's a lot of really good moving pieces, and I want to also say for the show, I think a lot of the issues, and from what I've read right now, this was the last of the previously filmed episodes that they had in the can for this show. So remember how there was like some productions issues with this show, and they stopped filming and then they restarted again. This was the last of those episodes. And John, do you think that was definitely an issue maybe when putting this together? Maybe that's why they kind of killed off Muse so quickly. I think a lot of rearrangement and a lot of mess, I think, happened in this show for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like it definitely threw some wrenches and things had to get all changed up with this. But I feel like at least so far it's turned out in a good way, you know?
Yeah. I mean, part of me thinks that maybe the Muse story might have been longer in the original. It might have lasted more episodes, and they decided, hey, we're going to cut some of this out because it's just taking too long. I could have easily have seen this being like a season finale kind of episode, potentially, and I don't think that would have worked at all. I think it would have left fans wanting a lot more. So I'm curious to see with these reshoots that supposedly happened, that we're going to see the action that they're including. Is I think these last two episodes are going to be pretty solid, I think, because, again, based on just the information that we have, I do think there's something to be expected here. But overall, I think we've chatted enough. Let's put some final scores on this one, John. I'm going to give Daredevil episode 7, art for art's sake, an 8.7 out of 10. It's a fantastic episode. I thought it was really well done. Again, the biggest issue, and it's just kind of an issue with the whole series, I think Muse was just a lot too rushed, actually, I'll say. I wish it was spread out across more episodes, but what they did in this episode, even though it felt like, the typical exposition, throw up vomit all over me, and then, we got, this is the character, this is what he's doing, this is his backstory. It's fine. It can be ignored because I think the action scene that led up to it after was so good, and the finale of this episode was really strong with the Kingpin, setting up things for the future, which, again, we have 2 episodes left, so I'm cautiously optimistic. I think they're going to pull something pretty good out, but, again, I can't wait to see what happens. John, how about you? What do you think of this one, man?
Yeah, I give this one an 8.5. I thought it was a great episode. I feel like they brought back the action. The action sequences were awesome. The storytelling is getting good, and I feel like it's almost getting to that point where you're like, you're starting to wonder, like, where and what's going to be the end to this right now.
Yeah, I mean, part of me feels like I'm being a little too generous with this show. So in the comments below, if you think that's the case, let me know. Let me know what you think. It's tough, right? I think we've been waiting for something more ground level to come out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I'm just really happy that we finally have it. And I think it's real, even if it's not the most well-constructed, perfect piece of art that we have, it's better than a lot of the things that we've gotten, but that doesn't always excuse it. So I do want to know in the comments, what did you think of this episode, overall, the series? What did you think? What were your thoughts on Muse? What would you guys have done maybe to make it a little more interesting? Because again, for me, just some more time, man. Sometimes you just need to let things breathe, and the show seems to have an issue with that, whether that's the writing standpoint, whether it's a reshoot issue. I don't know, maybe someday we'll find out. But again, thank you guys all so much for joining us for this episode of The Real Review. My name's Kevin, that guy's John. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. We'll catch you in the next one.
If you guys like what you've seen here today, consider giving this video a like and leaving your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to stay up to date with everything Real Movie Guys related, make sure to hit that subscribe button and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And don't forget, all you audio listeners at home, we are available on many podcasting platforms. Just search The Real Movie Guys, you should pop right up. Thank you again all so much for joining us on this episode of The Real Review. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Catch you next time.